All right, welcome everybody. So let's work on the next part of our exam review here. For this part, we're going to be going over the concept of a binomial distribution. So let's read this problem together real quick. College education and business world success. R. H. Bruskin Associate Market Research found that 40% of Americans do not think that having a college education is important to succeed in the business world. If a random sample of 5 Americans is selected, find these probabilities. Okay, before we actually jump into the questions, make sure that we have the formula for a binomial distribution and what does each letter represent. N will be the number of trials, X will be the number of successes in N trials, P is the probability of success, and Q is the probability of failure. When we're talking about the number of trials, and we're looking at this problem over here, the number of trials will be 5, because here we have 5 Americans being sampled out, right? So we have 5 people within the trials, and here X is the number of successes in N trials. That really depends on the word problem. So here for letter A, it says exactly 2 people will agree with that statement. So if we know that, what are we given? We're given that N for sure is 5. And here, our X value that we're going to use, it says exactly 2 people. We want the number of successes in N trials. This will be 2 people. And here, the probability of success is 0.40, or, 40%, what's given to us over here. So the probability of failure has to be 0.60. Because notice that the probability of success plus the probability of failure has to equal 1. So then Q has to equal 1 minus P. So this is 1 minus 0.40 and you get 0.60. Now here, to calculate this, all we need to do is plug in these numbers into this formula. So if we were to plug in these numbers into this formula, it should look something like this over here up top. So let me zoom in a little bit. Here, this is a probability of 0. So here we want to find the probability when we plug in 2. So we're going to want this one over here. So for 2, notice that all we're doing is plugging in. Let's just look at this real quick together. Here, what's our N value? Our N value is 5. And then this is 5 minus 2 factorial times 2 factorial times 0.4, which is our p-value, to the x, and our x value is 2, times 0.6 to the 5 minus 2. And when you do this math over here, it's equal to 0.346. What I'll do is, let me actually do the math. Let me show you step by step how you would do this problem. So let me just pause. Give me a second to write this out. So it's 5 factorial over 5 minus 2 factorial times 2 factorial, right? Times 0.40 to the 2 times 0.6 to the 5 minus 2, but that's just 3. Okay, so then how would you do this by hand? Oh, I'm so sorry. The camera angle was off. But here it is. How would you do this by hand? Here, 5 factorial is on the top. And this becomes what? 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 over 5 minus 2 is 3 factorial over 2 factorial. So then that's just 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 over 3 times 2 times 1 times 2 times 1. And here 0.4 squared, what will 0.4 squared be? Well, just to be sure, here 0.4 squared equals 0.16. So this is 0.16 over here. And then what's the other one? 0.6 cubed. Well, then this will just be here. Just use your calculator, 0.6. And how do I do this? Yeah, this one. Okay, so it's 0.216, right? All right, so this is 0.216, right? So now here, how do we continue forward? We cancel out the 1s, the 2, the 3 over here. So now this just becomes 20 divided by 2 is 10. So 10 times 0.16 times 0.216. And then let's just put this into our calculator. So we have 10 times 0.16, and then that's 1.6. So 1.6 times 0.216, and then that should be your answer. It's 0.3456. So it's 0.3456, but let's round it to 3 digits. So it's just 0.346, right? And that's the probability that exactly 2 people will agree with that statement. So what I did was I showed one of them for you, the probability of 2. Okay, so let's just zoom back a little bit. So here, this is the probability. Notice that we got 346 over here, and then this also came out to 346. And here, if your x value is 2, this is the probability. If our x value is 1, this is the probability. If it's 0, I did these for you. But if you want, you could do all of these by hand, and it would be the same steps I showed you for the probability of 2. If you want, I'll show you right now how to use your calculator to literally just do this in your calculator for you. So here, what you would do is, do you see this VARS button over here? Above the VARS button, let me zoom in a little bit. You see, above the VARS button is this distribute. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit second VARS, and then we're gonna have this list. And now we're gonna go all the way down to binomial PDF. So once we go to binomial PDF, the trials, so let's just put this over here. You see our trials will be the n value, right? So what was our n value? It was 5. What was our p-value? The p-value was the probability of success, and that was 0.4. So we could just write 0.4 here. And what was the x value we used? It was 2. And now you just plug in 2, and then from here, wait, let me get, here. And now here I just hit enter. Let me put this over here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Here I just hit enter, and then it should have something like this. And I hit enter again, and then there we go. It gave me 0.3456. So, I mean, you could do the algebra like this, or you could just use the calculator to find these values. And once you have all these probability values, we can do the rest of the questions. So here, let's take a look at, so question A we're done with. And don't forget that, what was our answer? It was 0.346, but as a percent, it will be a 34.6% chance that exactly 2 people would agree with this statement if there's a 40% probability of success out of 5 trials. All right, so let's do the next one for 11B. Let's read 11B together. It's saying, at most 3 people would agree with this statement. So take your time. What does at most represent? That, 3 is the highest. So to do this, we would need to know the probability of 0 plus the probability of 1 plus the probability of 2 plus the probability of 3. We need to calculate all of these and add them all up. And here we already calculated these probabilities that are over here. Notice that for 0, the probability of 0 is 0.078. The probability of 1 is 0.259. The probability of 2 is plus 0.346, and the probability of 3 is 0.230. So what you need to do is you need to add these probabilities up, because what would satisfy this condition? If 0 people agreed with the statement, if 1 person agreed with it, if 2 people agreed with it, or if 3 people agreed with it. But then you have to add the probabilities of all of them happening. So you just add them all up. You take the calculator. Let's add 0.078 plus 0.259 plus 0.346. Oh, sorry. Plus 0.346 plus 0.230, and we get 0.913. Let me just double check. 0.078, 0.259, 346, 230. So it's 0.913, but as a percent, this is 91.3% chance. And what does that mean in the context of the question? That there is a 91.3% chance that at most 3 people would agree with that statement. Okay? For 11C, at least 2 people agree with this statement. So take your time, try and pause the video. Which probabilities would satisfy this condition? And yeah, try and pause the video and think about it. Now, if you're trying to look at the solution, it would be the probability of 2, probability of 3, probability of 4, plus the probability of 5. Because if you have at least 2, then all of these would satisfy that statement. So all you need to do here is the same thing, is just take the decimal representations of each of these, a probability of 2. You would add all of these up. You would just add these up over here, and whatever number that is, convert it into a percent, and that would be the answer for 11C. And for 11D, fewer than 3 people, well then fewer than 3 people would be probability of, why don't you pause the video and think about it for a second. And now if you want to see the solution, it's just probability of 0, probability of 1, probability of 2. Right? And you just, whatever these decimal values are, I mean they're right here, you just add these 3 up and convert it into a percent, and that's your solution. Okay, I hope that helped.